Action. All right, guys, today we have something really kind of extra special. Actually, it's a bonus because we forgot the F100 last time. So we're going to go back to Nikon and make this a part three of the Nikon, whatever you want to call it. And Mr. Wu is going to give us a quick tour of some of his favorite Nikon cameras. And some are very, very interesting. In fact, the F100 is one of the ones that we miss as a professional camera there. So, one thing I ask is that you like and subscribe so we can bring a lot more of these productions to you. All right, Mr. Wu, what do we got here?
Okay, so we have the FM, FE, FA, and the F100. So I will start in the chronological order. So all these cameras span about 10 years apart, a decade apart. So when the Olympus camera launched the OM1 small compact SLR camera, so all the other major camera maker jump into the bandwagon. So everybody shrink the size. So Nikon's version is the FM, introduced in 1977. So they make the chrome and the black version. You see here, I fitted it with the motor. But if you take out the motor, it's not too big. It's about this size.
Can you bring it right here? All right.
So if you put it against the OM1 side by side, you find that it's almost the same. Slightly bigger, but more or less. So if you take a view of it side by side, not at angle, because angle, then the nearer one looks bigger. If you look at side by side, they are about the same. Maybe a little bit taller, a little bit deeper, but overall, you can call it a small camera. Yet, it's all mechanical. So this is the FM. Okay, take out the other stuff. So this is mechanical. 1 second to 1000. All the speed you need. The modern camera goes up to 400, 8000. I don't find myself actually using it. I also seldom use 1000. I would probably shoot 250, 500 for action shot. Then the rest is good enough. 1 second and B for time exposure. So the standard things are there. The Nikon F mount has not been changed since the beginning, which is what the people like about the Nikon. You can use all the old lens. In fact, for this one, it's a transition. They introduced the AI mounting. You don't need to do the Nikon shuffle. But for those who have the old lens, if you have the old lens on the modern Nikon, this pin is not movable and it blocks, so you cannot mount it. So on this transition version, there's a little button here. You push and this lug will get out of the way. So you can mount the old F lenses without the rabbit ear, without the AI indexing. Only thing you have to do is the slop down metering, but at least you can mount it. So that's why I like the FM, FE compared to the FM2 and FE2. I don't have the FM2. I don't have FE2 because that camera didn't have this. So I have this, so you can do both. And of course, the early one, the screen is fixed. Later on, FM2, you can change the screen. But the FE fixed it, so FE you can change the screen. And typical of Nikon camera, when you activate the self timer, it acts like a mirror lockup. The mirror goes up for about 10 seconds, enough time for the vibration to stop. Then the shutter fires. So it does not have a proper individual mirror lockup device, but this will do, it will work just the same. Then like more pro camera, they added multiple exposure. You can take more than one frame, more than one exposure on the same frame. And the early version, they got this shutter collar, one in black and one in red. So when you mount the motor, you got to turn it to red. Then you activate the motor from the shutter button. Okay. this one is the meter on. When you see the red dot, the meter goes on. When you push it back, the meter go off. So when you mount it on the motor, so you lift this collar to the red, you turn on the motor. So you can do sequence about 3.5 frames per second. Go on the high speed, they go faster. So you got both. So this is the Nikon F M with the MD12, or you can use the MD11 motor.
Either or.
Yeah, either or. Then 1 year later, 1978, they came out with the auto version, the FE. So basically the same except for the shutter speed control. Now it's controlled by electronics, run on the battery. Your aperture priority, you turn the dial to auto, you preset the aperture, the camera will select the proper shutter speed. You can do full manual from 1000 up to 8 seconds. Remember the Nikon EL only go up to 4 seconds. This one they extended to 8 seconds. And the EL have a CDS meter cell. This one use the later one, the silicon photodiode. So the response to light is faster. Then there is a mechanical backup speed 90 in case of battery failure. So you still can use 90. And there is the B for long exposure. Okay. So same F mount. Again, you can also push the lug away for the O lens. This time you can change the focusing screen. You just pull the tab, the focusing screen will drop down. Take the same winder. So the self timer also act like a mirror lock. So activate the self timer, then up, the mirror goes up, delay for 10 seconds, then the shutter trips. There's one extra function because it's an auto exposure. If you want to do exposure lock, this self timer lever you push towards the body. You put towards the body, the last exposure reading is locked. So that's the exposure lock. So other than that, it is similar to the FM. So this is the auto version of the FM. You find I got two. When I got two, that means I like the camera. So the Nikon F I got two. FM I got two. FE I got two. F301 I got two. 601 I got two. 801 I got two. 90X I got two. So that means if I got two or more, that means I like it. Then in 1983, another 10 years later, almost a 10 year later, they came up with this camera, FA. FA won the Japan Grand Prix award. This is the first camera that introduced what we know today as the matrix metering. The first camera that used a computer database of exposure to give good exposure. Basically what it does is that it breaks up the picture frame into many segments. So they take different reading at different segment. And then if we were say like this was a giant camera, inside there were a lot of people working in it. So many people will measure the light from the center, from the top, from the bottom. They took the data reading and they go to the library, a database. And they try to do a match. They find that all the 10,000 or 100,000 pictures in the database, they try to find the match. When they found the match, and they find out what is the exposure setting, and they will set the exposure. It all happened at a fraction of a second. So you got a computer inside. So you can take nice picture without much of experience. Only thing is, that time they didn't have the device to detect the orientation of the camera. So it's made for horizontal format to have that to work. So if you tilt the camera, the matrix won't work. So you have to put it in this position first. Then of course there's an option to do away with the matrix. So you switch it off. You can switch it off. So to do the matrix metering, they also added another feature found in the later camera. You see, all the later Nikon camera, there is a little groove here, a circular groove here. So these were made with the pin on the body next to the locking pin. There's a little tiny pin here. So the pin got depth. And then the groove also got depth. So they make 3 depths, one for the wide lens, one for the normal lens, and one for the long lens. So when you made this is Nikon's way of telling the camera what is the focal length of the lens. It's just a physical, mechanical device, not electronic. So when it is mounted, so the camera knows the focal length. So when they do the program setting, it will do the bias for you. It will bias for higher shutter speed for the long focal length, bias for the smaller aperture for the wide angle lens, and the normal, the 50 will be the normal standard setting. So they have this, what we common for every camera is the PSAM selector, program, shutter priority, aperture priority, and manual. So you can do the setting, and of course you can do backup speed 250 and B. Again, you also can take out the focusing screen, and you can put the old motor, but you have their own motor, MD15, custom built for this camera. With that motor, even though you don't have battery in the body, the power of from the motor will supply power to the metering and shutter. So this, without motor, you have this nice hand grip. So when you put the motor, you take this hand grip out. So that was Nikon's introduction to the matrix metering, FA. Then after that, the camera would begin to have built-in motor. So we have the F4, and then we have the F100. F100, not as bulky as the F4, but it was more advanced. So the focusing and other function was there. So let me put a AF lens. This is not the Nikon lens, but nevertheless. So you can put the AF lens. Yep, turn it on. So you can select autofocus. Yeah. So then you can have sequence, you can have high speed. So again, this one, you have changeable screen, focusing, automatic. This one come in 2 versions. If you take out this grip, which gives you extra power and faster firing rate, and use normal AA battery, you can put the smaller grip. You also use AA battery, but just 4 pieces. That will make the camera more compact. And for those who don't need the higher firing rate, so you got it, small version. And you just have to add on this device. Then will give you higher firing rate, easier to grip, and the vertical button for your portrait shots. Yeah, so that's the F100. So after F100, we have the bigger brother, the F5. Then later on, the F6. And that was the last of the film cameras from Nikon. So it's nice, good camera. It doesn't cost too much today. Everybody go for the autofocus and digital. So these are good time to pick them up.
So that, would you say the FA was the last year of the manual focus?
No. After the FA, they came up with the FM3A. So that is from the FM, FM2, and the FM3A. The FM3A, I haven't got one yet because it's still too pricey for me to buy one. unless I find somebody who has the camera and loan it to me so that I can do a video on it. But it is a very interesting camera. It's 100% mechanical shutter plus 100% electronic shutter. It's a hybrid shutter. So on mechanical, you go down from 1 second to 1 over 4,000. On electronic, it goes from maybe about 30 seconds right up to about 1 over 4,000.
Okay.
So
The other question is, there's so many F models, the FM and the 3As, and I understand that they they're updated yearly by the model and such. But of these Fs, are there any particular genre that a professional would use as opposed to F whatever would be used for
okay,
hobbyists, or F something else would be used for more professionals, a backup camera to their F3s?
okay, it all depends on their generation, where they started from. If you go back from the beginning, everyone was using a mechanical shutter camera. And that was proven. They live by it. They know it so well. It's like the old racing driver. They use stick shift and don't have the modern technology of traction control and ABS and all this. So they learn how to take the corner. I'm not a good racing driver, but I learned if you want to take the corner with the traction control, you put your heel on the accelerator and your toes on the brake. And you play around, so when you take the corner, you can control both. So you do it well, you can do traction control. So in the early days, all the professionals will be using mechanical. And when the first electronic camera came out, they were all skeptical. They say, I rather trust what I know than something I don't know. What happened if some failure?
Similar to film versus digital in the beginning.
Yeah. So when F3 came out, the professionals don't touch it with a 10-foot pole. But after a while, the F3 proven itself. Then that generation of professionals ditched all the mechanical camera because mechanical camera had one problem. The shutter speed was never spot on. If you're taking slide, you know, your exposure must be spot on. 1/3 leeway is sometimes either you get a good picture or not a good picture. So mechanical shutter, when it's marked as 1 over 1,000, when you actually measure it, it may not be 1 over 1,000, it may be 1 over 800, 1 over 850. So long as it's within the tolerance of the film latitude, then you're okay. So when they introduce the electronic shutter, it's spot on. So it is 1888, it is 1888 to the dot. So very precise. And over the year, the electronics proved that it is quite reliable for a certain time frame. Then, of course, things move on. The motor keep built in, so reduce the bulk, reduce the weight of putting another motor and with AA battery. So the technology just move on. So it's just like telling a computer guy, you know, if I give you the first Apple computer, would you like it? He said, what junk is that? It's like a PC, the 286 and 386 and the 486. Nobody will relish the idea, wow, you got me a 486, wonderful. No, they will look for the latest because the latest have the smallest, maybe a little bit pricey to start with, but it can do far more than what it could do before. I remember I saw a picture of them loading up a big disk drive. Was only a small, measly megapixel, but the thing was huge, like a refrigerator. Then they take a forklift to take it up. But today, small device like smaller than this can hold 1 terabyte of information. So electronic technology always evolving. So for then, you want to be on the latest, you get the latest because that is the latest technology you can use on.
Okay, great. Understand. Well, guys, thanks a lot, Mr. Wu, for this bonus edition of Nikon, and hopefully we'll get some more because I know there's a heck of a lot of Nikon/Nikon fans out there, and we can't wait for some more.
Yeah.
In the meantime, stay tuned because I'm going to try to answer some questions. I know a lot of you guys have had some questions regarding myself, so I'll try to do that when I get home. Now, Mr. Wu, is there any Q&A that comes to your mind that you want to
Let me know
mention?
that when I did one of the recent Leica, when somebody say that he wish to look for a certain camera, and then he also say a SL66. I know the guys was meaning the Rolleiflex SL66. Yeah, that was a wonderful camera. So I have to find one
Okay.
specimen.
Well, great.
Yeah.
Well, I hope that person kind of hangs out. All right, Mr. Wu.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Bye
Bye.
bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.